Hello and welcome to the next episode of What Happens in Marketing. I'm Tom Heaton, president of Las Vegas Innovative Marketing Association, and I'm excited to bring you back to the podcast where we talk about the stories behind the storytellers, be able to look and peek behind the curtain to see what it is that makes all of these stories that our marketers tell possible. So I'm excited today as we think about the world of Las Vegas. We really recognize that sports have taken over as we've seen our very successful hockey team go through the perils of the first 5 years of being really close to a championship and now fighting and being able to get themselves into playoff contention. We've got the Las Vegas Raiders that are in playoff contention and trying to push themselves into the next steps of the NFL there. And we've just celebrated our first championship as a city to be able to have our Lady Aces bring home our first World Championship trophy. Sports have really taken a forefront for us as Las Vegas as a whole. And as marketers here, all of us have to pay attention to what's going on in the sports world. So with that, I'm excited to bring on our guest today. We have the CEO of the newest team in town, Mark Fine, CEO of the Desert Dogs of the National Lacrosse League. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you. You're bringing a new sport into a city that has a lot of new sports. And to think about it, 6 years ago, we didn't have a major league professional team here. Now, all of a sudden, we do. And I would say, starting off, just getting to hear your background a little bit. You've got extensive experience working in professional sports in much bigger markets, working in New York for the New York Mets and the Brooklyn Nets. I'd be curious to hear you. Give us a little bit more of tales of your background as a marketer.
Yeah, I've been working in this business since I graduated school, even before I graduated college. Went to college at American University in D.C. I interned for the Baltimore Orioles in college my entire senior year. I ended up getting a job with the Orioles minor league affiliate after I graduated. They were owned by a company called Comcast Spectacor, the big cable giant. And I worked in minor league ball, and they moved me up to do some arena marketing in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center where the Sixers and Flyers play. I marketed things. I marketed everything other than the Sixers and Flyers, all the other events that came in, the concerts, the family shows, and whatnot. They moved me to a building in Norfolk, Virginia, an 8,500-seat arena at Oldham University. And then in my 30s, that took care of my 20s. In my 30s, I ended up working for the Harlem Globetrotters. My dad joke is that the Globetrotters never lost a game when I was working for them. And not since either.
Well done. You've set a precedent.
Yeah, very impressive, right? And worked for the Globetrotters for 4.5 years in event marketing. And you had to be pretty, in minor league baseball and the Harlem Globetrotters, you have to be pretty creative and, with how you present yourself. And it's about informing, persuading, and reminding. Mm-hmm. And I think you can do some fun things in minor league ball and at the Harlem Globetrotters that get the attention of those in the major leagues. So I got a call from a recruiter when I was with the Globetrotters about this job with the New York Mets. It was a senior director of marketing job. And they wanted somebody who was not working in baseball currently or not working really in major league sports. They wanted somebody who was doing something different and had to really kick, scrape, and claw to drive ticket sales and get people to games. And that's what we were doing in minor league ball and at the Harlem Globetrotters for sure. And we did it in a fun way. So I was very fortunate to move over to the Mets, where I spent 6 years with them. And then most recently, before the Desert Dogs, I had spent 2 years with the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are owned by a gentleman named Joe Tsai. He also owns the New York Liberty. He owns Barclays Center in Brooklyn. He's a huge lacrosse guy. He played the sport coming over from Taiwan in high school. He learned English through the sport. He credits him learning English through the sport of lacrosse. He went on to play in college. So I had this opportunity to come out here and go beyond even marketing and run the full business operation here for an expansion team that he co-owns with a few other good stars. Wayne Gretzky, Joe brought in Steve Nash, who's the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, and Wayne brought in his son-in-law, Dustin Johnson, who is married to Wayne's daughter, Paulina. He's a very, well-versed and famous professional golfer, having won the Masters and is now on the LIV Tour.
Yeah, you've got some big names there, and I'll jump right into that. How do you leverage the notoriety of the ownership that you've got? I mean, you just mentioned the great one. You just mentioned one of
Yeah.
the most popular professional golfers that currently exists, and also, I mean, a big name in the basketball community to have somebody that was a legend down here in the Southwest. That's still a big name overall. How do you take all of that and then leverage that as a new brand in this market?
Well, the thing about Wayne is that our sport, box lacrosse, which is what indoor lacrosse is called, is actually the national sport in Canada, not ice hockey. It is officially the sport of Canada. And Wayne and Steve, because Steve's Canadian as well, grew up playing the game of box lacrosse. So something that we've done, being that this market is a very big hockey market now. 6 years into the Vegas Golden Knights being here,
Yep.
is really having Wayne, tell the story of why he thinks that box lacrosse here in Vegas is going to be very successful. The game is very much like ice hockey. So 70 to 80% of the players in the league are Canadian players. So Wayne, being kind of the two-sport athlete, having starred in both of sports, he's able to tell that story. And obviously folks here in Las Vegas, know Wayne's name. Everybody knows Wayne's name across the world. But as a hockey fan and a new hockey fan, and most fans here are newer hockey fans within the last 6-7 years, utilizing Wayne in his own words to kind of tell, the similarities between the two sports and the excitement of attending a game in person. I really believe that, much like ice hockey, our game of lacrosse, box lacrosse, is something that you'll want to see in person. I think when you go to your first ice hockey game, it comes across a lot better in person sometimes than it does on a screen. And I believe our game takes that nod as well.
Yeah, I would say so. It's one of those things that you have to experience in order to really get the full feeling of it. And I think that's one thing that Vegas has done very well, is to be able to bring in the experiential side of sports.
Yeah.
And we've always been an entertainment city. We are the entertainment capital of the world. Now we're blending that into some of the best reality television that will ever exist in sports. It's unpredictable, and especially with a game that's as fast moving as lacrosse, it really is something that if you can get that spectacle of the entertainment side combined with that fast pace of you never quite know what's going to happen as you watch it, you really can bring a level of excitement to the community that really it's not attainable for a lot of other venues.
Yeah, totally agree. And, there's a reason why sports teams want to come to Las Vegas. We've sold over 1,900 season tickets. That is much more than I thought we would sell in this market. I had a budget about a year ago overall at 1,500 season tickets by our first game in December. We're at over 1,900 plus, and we just announced our schedule earlier this week. There's a reason teams want to come to this market. It's because people really rally behind professional sports teams that they can call their own, even if they don't know the sport. I think it's fair to say, Tom, that I'm throwing out a number. I don't know this for fact, but I would say qualitatively about 70% of our fans, they don't know what they bought. They're just taking, they
want to get first, right? There's a certain element of that too. I would say that I hear this excitement around I'm going to go do this. And this is kind of like an exclusive club, very similar to the way that the Knights were when they first came into town.
Yeah. And a lot of what we've heard just from, our fans and season ticket members is that they didn't want to miss out. They thought that this was going to get really big, and they missed out maybe on the Knights. Some people say that they missed out on the Aces, and they don't want to miss out on this. So we appreciate that. I mean, again, I don't know that we come into a city like Pittsburgh or Seattle, which is not nearly as transient, and do as well as we have here. I think it speaks to Las Vegas and the pride that people have, and how people are really yearning for teams that they can call their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also be curious too. You mentioned that this is a predominantly Canadian sport, and we do have a good pipeline of Canadians that live here in town. Whether it's folks that are traveling back and forth between seasons, or they made their permanent residence here. I'd be curious for your team, what kind of research did you do as you consider bringing a team to town? What were the trusted sources of research that you went to?
Well, you mentioned Canadians. One little intricacy that I will tell you is that in both paid search and paid social, we've used Canadian people who are snowbirds that like sports as one of the target audiences.
Very
Because a Canadian who likes sports is generally a box lacrosse fan.
good.
And what the cool thing is seeing on social is those who have, which aren't many of them, but those who have been to National Lacrosse League games before, helping educate those who haven't been and getting those excited. But you speak to the research that we did beforehand. Lacrosse is an opportunity to be an Olympic sport in the 2028 Olympics in LA. That decision gets made in March of 2023 by the USOC. We know, I think our ownership group knew that there aren't many lacrosse athletes here in Las Vegas. There's about 1,000 based on our research, which would put us at number 15 in a league of 15 in terms of number of youth participants in the sport. I would also say that ice hockey, when they came in and they were the 31st team in the league, probably was number 31 as well in terms of actual, ice hockey players.
Yeah,
We hope to certainly grow that number, but there was a reason. In order to be a sport, and how it works in the Olympic Games when you're a host country, is you get to pick a couple of sports that can be an Olympic sport when you're the host country. Japan did that most recently with baseball. Even though baseball years ago was an Olympic sport, it hadn't been as of late. So lacrosse is gunning it out with a few other sports to try and be one of those sports that is selected. And I think in order to do that, you have to be popular across the country as opposed to just one region in the country. And I come from the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. I'm born in Baltimore and from Baltimore.
Yep, lacrosse country, right?
Which is lacrosse country. Baltimore and Long Island, when I grew up, those were the places that those were the lacrosse hotbeds.
Yeah,
my uncle played for Johns Hopkins.
nice. Yeah, great team.
Yeah. So, however, the game has expanded even over the last 10 to 20 years. You look at a University of Denver, Colorado, where you've attended games from, like Colorado is a lacrosse bed, a hub in the western part of the country. Vegas isn't. However, it's shown over the last few years that it's a really good sports town. So Vegas was chosen as kind of a place where lacrosse can really be grown.
So that's a great, opportunity there for us to be able to talk about the chances for lacrosse to grow. We saw how hockey blew up out here, and I can say even just being around town, you see lacrosse nets everywhere. The park down by me, I pick up probably a lacrosse ball like every other week from kids that have missed the net, and it's out in the middle of the street. It's here. Lacrosse is here, but you're right. It's under the surface a little bit. And so I would ask you then, as you're bringing a new professional team in, and you know that you have a underlying audience that's here, albeit small, what do you do to find that niche and be able to get them to be, as you just said earlier, essentially your biggest fans that will then educate the other fans that maybe aren't fans yet?
Well, we've done a couple things a few things for the lacrosse community. I'm going to, tonight, it's a Friday, I'm headed out to the Henderson Pirates practice, which has 150 kids that, of all ages that play on Friday nights. We'll have a tent set up. just handing out information about who we are. And I think at this point, they know who we are because we've been there several times, but continuing to kind of pump that in. But a couple things that we've done in particular for the lacrosse community, we announced our name on April 26th, earlier this year in 2022. Mm-hmm. And we posted this on social, and we came true on this, is that we wanted every kid who was playing spring lacrosse in Nevada to get a penny from us. So we gave every kid here in Las Vegas a penny. We actually had a few teams in Reno reach out as well, and we shipped them pennies. Pennies is something that's kind of lacrosse endemic. You know, where one side is white, the other side is black, and it's cool.
We're talking jerseys, basically like a mesh jersey that would go over shoulder pads, and then you can flip it around. So
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And then actually, next week, what will be the week of September 26th, the lacrosse community had told us that the actual goals were a bit tattered up. So we went ahead and we're going to distribute 40 new goals throughout the community that are Las Vegas Desert Dogs branded.
Nice.
And just so they're nice and new, they're great netting, they're really strong netting. And those are two things that we really wanted to do for the lacrosse community. It's a passionate community. It's smaller compared to other cities in our league and across the country, but it's a passionate community. So we wanted to take their ideas and we wanted to make them real. And we try and do our best. We contribute to their fundraisers and generally are a sponsor of every fundraiser that they might have. We want to show them that we love them and we want them to grow. That's going to benefit all of us if the sport of lacrosse is growing. And there's a greater good here. If this sport becomes an Olympic game, just like the World Cup is coming in 2026, the sport of soccer, it exploded in '94 when the World Cup was here. It's really, really going to explode now when it comes back to this country in 2026. Imagine lacrosse as an Olympic game in 2028, what that will do for participation numbers for all of us.
Absolutely. To have an Olympic event that's 3.5 hours away from us that would then be able to translate to a city that is just starting to get great youth programs around here. That's an awesome way to be able to get the sport to grow. In that sense, I'd ask you, you've got your niche audience here. How do you essentially help them to grow out? Is that parents of the sport? Is that people that maybe that don't even know essentially what that lacrosse net is when they walk past it, walking their dogs past the park, but maybe they're Knights fans? How do you get them to be able to latch on to your brand and be a part of your community that you're growing?
Well, you have to reach both audiences, the parents and the kids. So at the New York Mets, when I worked there, it was all about getting a kid to their first game by age 8. That our studies show that if you get a kid to their first baseball game by age 8, they'll go to 58% more games over a lifetime than if their first game is age 14. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights have made 50, 60, 70, 80-year-olds become fans of a team and a sport that they never had imagined that they would be fans of. Yep. So generally, as marketers, you want to go after kids. And age 8, I always found to be kind of the crucial age. It's funny. There was another study that showed the best year to win a world championship in baseball was age 8 as well. And we actually saw that at the Mets, who won the World Series in 1969 and 1986, that our season ticket holders were about age 8 when that happened. But Vegas Golden Knights and what you've seen here with the sport of ice hockey is that they're making fans of all age groups. The participation, I think, is always shown to be useful in creating a fan. Is that if somebody is participating in the sport, they're likely to be a fan of the professional league. So that's one avenue. But the other avenue that, again, as I mentioned, VGK really took advantage of is creating that excitement. I came from the Baltimore, Washington area, and I would give you, and I know it's not a great team in VGK land, but the Washington Capitals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When I was growing up, they weren't as popular. But then they get Alex Ovechkin. They move into an arena inside of Washington, D.C. The arena was in Maryland, kind of in the boonies before then. And they rock the red. and it is a really cool experience. Washington, D.C. is a transient city as well. And Junior, he or she really loved the Caps. And mom and dad started going to games and being like, this is really fun. So that's how you capture people. And what excites me is ice hockey. The fans of the sport of ice hockey are so passionate. And I'm seeing that actually right now from our fans. And they still haven't attended their first game. Their first game will be our first game. So we'll be going in it together.
Yeah, looking forward to that. It's a good opportunity. Let's take a quick break here. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back. We are here with Mark Fine, CEO of the Desert Dogs, the newest team in Las Vegas. Mark, you've been telling us a little bit about the audience that you've already been able to capture and how you're working your way in with that. Let's talk a little bit more about the marketing side of things.
Yeah.
Your team tell that story, and you talked about the research, talked about some of the other audience that you have there. What are some of the elements that when you sat down and you said, okay, this is the story that we want to be able to tell to this new market?
Yeah, I think that we wanted to show, as opposed to tell, right? We wanted to show how similar the sport was to ice hockey, how fun it was. There is hitting in the sport. There's some fighting in the sport. There's a lot of goal scoring. We also wanted to show how accessible our players are, that they're your everyday guy who really is trying to make a living and really accessible to helping the community grow the sport of lacrosse. So that's what we try to show in a lot of our visuals. In terms of our marketing strategy, like it was really important. I'm a believer that opening night's got to be a packed house for us. And we've sold 1,900 seasons, which is, like I said, more than I thought we would sell. Where I had budgeted once 1,500, then we rose it to 2,000. Now we're at 3,000. And maybe we can hit that. I hope we can. We might fall a little bit short of that. We'll see. But I'm a believer that, fans can serve as ambassadors and do the marketing for us. We need to provide an incredible game experience, and we need our fans to walk away and do the marketing for us. Now, here at the beginning, we did a lot of paid social where we targeted fans that we thought would be interested, targeted sports fans that we thought would be interested in joining us. And we got leads and we followed up on those leads. And I think that I got on a lot of calls. I sold some tickets. It was me and another person for up till February. I got here in June of 21, and it was two people for the most part until February of 22. And we got to know everybody. Like, we knew every one of our season ticket holders, and we knew them personally, and we're going to dinners with them and hanging out with them. And thankfully, it's gotten to be a lot of them. So we aren't able to go to dinner with every one of them, which is good. But we wanted to provide that personal touch. And there's nothing more important to me than our fans. They are the most important part of our business, and ticket sales is the most important part of our business. It's the lifeblood of our business. They are the ones who will do the marketing for us. And if we don't do our job and we don't provide that experience, they're going to let us know, and they're going to let others know. So it's really important, I think, for us this is about growing the game of lacrosse and having a fun time. Working in sports, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. And what makes working in sports different than working in other places, I think, in marketing, is you truly can see your results. There's nothing like seeing a full house. When I would promote a show with the Harlem Globetrotters, or I had a promotional night at the New York Mets or at the Brooklyn Nets, to know that I had a part in creating that atmosphere and that energy in an arena, there's nothing like that. I don't know other businesses where you can get that adrenaline and that thrill.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned a little bit earlier that some of the mediums that you're using. You mentioned social search and things like that. But you also talk about creating the visual, and then the importance of being able to have your audience be your storytellers. I would ask you, what do you do to give your storytellers those visual aids, how do you help them show the community that they
Yeah.
are Desert Dogs fans, and how to get them to basically do that spreading of the marketing of the storytelling from there?
Well, it's difficult because, we don't have any old footage of our team, of guys in our uniform playing the game. So it's not easy. But what we try to do through our social accounts, again, it goes back to, in this town, like every town, but certainly in this town, being extremely community oriented. I want to visibly go out and be in Henderson tonight to shake hands and thank the many season ticket holders that are already there, and talk to others about potentially being a season ticket member or a fan. And it's trying to show those visuals through our social media and our website, so that people see that we're community oriented. And they get an idea that you can go up close with us. So we had an open free clinic back when we announced our name, back in late April or we did the open clinic. Sorry, we did that closer to June. And we had an open clinic open to kids ages 6 to 17, no charge. It was at Las Vegas Sports Park in Summerlin, where we're actually going to have our team practices. And we had over 200 kids come to that. And our owner, Joe Tsai, I said earlier that he was a huge lacrosse player. He was decked out. He was in his lacrosse gear, and he's a really good lacrosse player. And he was helping with the drills. So we wanted to.
Oh, they're running the drills. That's
yes,
awesome.
yes. Joe Tsai, who owns the Brooklyn Nets, and you can follow some of the stories that he was involved with in the NBA offseason. Like, he's a pretty busy man, but he loves the game of lacrosse, and he was working with kids on drills just with our other players that we had drafted. And it was amazing. And we had a lot of fun, and we were able to show that footage. And I was able to speak to the parents, and Joe is speaking to the parents and introducing them to the game as well. So it's those types of things that we're doing our best at. And so we get the footage from our first game and multiple games that we can have our guys actually in uniform. As our head coach says, they're really nice guys off the field. They're not as nice on the field, and that's the way we want them.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to run into them between the boards there.
Yes.
Yeah. Good stuff. So you talked about your experience, on the East Coast and some of these markets. I mean, you were in a global market in New York. What's the difference that you'd see, or if you had to just identify, let's say, the top difference that you recognize in Vegas as a market as opposed to where you've experienced elsewhere?
Yeah, New York versus Vegas. Here in Vegas, I can't just be behind my desk, especially in the job that I have, or I'm running. I could be the face of our business operation. I have to be out there in the community. As a marketer in New York, both in Brooklyn and in Flushing with the Mets, I could be. You were doing a lot of the marketing from your desk, and obviously you got out, into the ballpark or into the arena, and got to, see fans and hear from them. But this is a lot more personal here. This is the number 39 TV market, where New York is the number 1. This is a much smaller town. I worked in Norfolk, Virginia Beach. That's number 42 in terms of TV market size. Again, it's more like that. This is more of a personal connection with people. And I said to people, like, opening night, something that I'm going to have a problem with is I'm going to get texts where somebody says, my ticket's not scanning or something. Hopefully nothing major. And I'm going to want to run up there and fix it, because that's kind of how I am. But I've got to step back and let others take care of it. And that's going to be a challenge that I have throughout the season, is that I take this very personally, for good or for bad. This means a lot to me personally, and seeing that we grow this game and build this brand and provide this incredible experience at our games for kids and families and, men, women alike, to have fun and provide a memorable experience for 2 hours, 15 minutes.
Yeah. With that, so you've got your key differences that you've identified in here. You've been going through a lot with this community engagement and getting out there in person, everything like that. if you had a key lesson that you've said so far, you know what, I came in expecting this, and it turns out it was this. What was that lesson?
The lesson that I'm getting right now is how difficult hiring is. To be frank, I don't know if that has to do with community marketing. I think what the post-COVID world is right now, it is different. It's getting people to commit to 9 home games, which is a lot easier than getting them to commit to 41 home regular season ice hockey games or 81 regular season baseball games. It's a lot harder, more so than just the financial commitment, is the time commitment. And that goes with our hiring practices as well. And I think that we're seeing that not only across sports, but across, our country. That has been, I think, as things have evolved for me, I think the biggest surprise that I've had here in Vegas, which has been a good surprise, is how many people are willing to try something without ever having experienced it before.
Yeah.
To willing to commit their time, especially post-COVID, to 9 home games, having no idea, like I said back in the beginning of the episode, really what they bought. They're taking a chance on us, and I really appreciate that. I'm sort of surprised about that.
Yeah,
in a good way.
Right, it's a nice little perk there.
Yeah.
Good surprise to see that. We do have an audience here in town that is willing to try something new, and you've done a great job of outlining really the excitement that can be built up around professional sports and how you've tapped into that. It's been awesome to hear you talk about the community involvement, and I think they're great takeaways for our audience here. Is be involved in the community, go out there, be interactive, and create an opportunity for you to really build, as you said, that personal connection with your key core audience. Because if you're able to do that, then you're able to turn that core audience into your storytellers. And if you can give them that right story, give them the feeling and the excitement that they're seeking, they're going to want others to feel it with them. And I'm really excited to see where you and your team are able to take things from here. We'll say, go Desert Dogs. You'll have to tell me what the official chant is going to be as we get ready for opening night. And remind us again, opening night for the Desert Dogs.
I'll give it a plug. Friday, December 16th at 7:30 p.m. live on ESPN2. But we want you in person at Mandalay Bay, Michelob Ultra Arena at Mandalay Bay. We have season tickets on sale right now for all 9 of our home games at LasVegasDesertDogs.com.
All right. Friday, December 16th. We'll see you there. Mark, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for being a part of another episode of What Happens in Marketing. We'll look forward to more episodes coming up soon. We'll see you soon.